Hey guys, thanks once again for tuning in to Be Good Fruit. It's a podcast. We are here to give you our opinions, to tell you what's worked for us and practical applications of how do we put this Word of God into our daily lives and make it work. And that's what it is, us giving you our opinion. In the end, you have to look it up. You have to do the research. It's your relationship with Christ, not ours. So do the work, get to know Jesus, and do your best to dig into the Word. Without further ado, Be Good Fruit. Hello and welcome to Be Good Fruit. I'm Brian.
I'm David.
Here we are doing Brian's testimony.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right, let's define testimony again. We're going to define it a little better.
Okay.
The act of sharing one's personal experiences, encounters, and reflections of God's work in our lives.
I like that one better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You got the bad definitions. I get the better ones.
It was like
I'm prettier.
to go in and out and talk about and roundabout and then doing that of a person's nature. And I'm like, what?
The thing with the thing. The thing with the
The
thing.
thing. Yeah, but I didn't think it said anything about prettier or anything.
Well, I'm just naturally good looking.
Oh, okay.
Animal magnetism.
Oh, that's what it's called.
I mean, if you round up. That's bad. My wife, I'm just a charity case. She just...
She found you on the side of the road.
Man, that is too ugly to just let go. No, it's because I'm big. She's like, he could lift heavy objects.
Right. He can do some good housework.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, man.
All right. So my testimony, I guess I'll do it chronological in a way. Might jump here and there.
All right.
We always kid about how old I am. So way back in yesteryears,
You're not going to say the year?
1830.
Oh, my goodness.
No, back in the 70s, 72, I was born. And my dad and my mom, they were in Michigan. And so I was born up there on the University of Michigan campus. There
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Go Blue!
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. So that's why I don't like that Ohio team. So a lot of my dad's side of the family is from Michigan.
Okay.
Right. And then my mom's side is all from like East Tennessee. So you have on my dad's side kind of English, French. There's one line where we are related to Ben Franklin, but so is half of America. And then part of the Donnans, I think. But then on my mom's side, it's all rednecks.
Okay.
So East Tennessee hillbillies, just it's how they were. Oh, it's storming out. Yeah, maybe it will rain.
Yeah.
If this gets cut short, it's because the power went out.
Right.
But we, growing up there, left when I was 2, so I have no memory. And then we moved to Indiana.
Read it in Indiana.
East Central.
Okay.
Yeah, we moved around. And then East Central Indiana, I moved there. Not Indianapolis, but east of that, a little bit more north. But I had the Leave It to Beaver television show family
Oh, man.
when I was a kid. Not quite as white, but pretty white.
Okay.
But I had mom and dad every Christmas. I mean, I got photos I can pull out, like every Star Wars toy, every thing, all the Hot Wheels, hundreds of stuff, like an amazing, what you would expect a 70s kid to have in a perfect situation.
You have a sit and spin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Had yard darts, had all the Hot Wheels, had all the Star Wars toys. If not,
Jones?
G.I. Joe's kind of came afterwards in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm old, remember?
Oh, yeah.
We just got over Pet Rock and we moved into... That was a thing. But so in Indiana growing up, and it was just my mom and her family. Dad's family stayed in Michigan.
Okay.
And then I had a year where I was in fourth grade. So how old are you then? 8, 10, somewhere in there? I think
8.
you're 8.
Yeah.
Anyway, I broke my wrist twice, broke my fingers, broke my ankle, had a bad appendectomy where my appendix ruptured.
Oh, no.
And my mom, so my mom's tough. You've heard me talk about it. And like really tough. Like insanely tough. This is the nicest things I can say. My grandma was over, and I remember my grandma telling me this story years later. She said, "That boy don't look right. I think you need to take him to the hospital." And I'm out there holding on to the fence. I remember where I was when she came and got me. Yelled at me, "Hurry up, get in the car." Like, Nancy, you know? Like, okay. So I get in the car.
Quit your clowning. Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Crybaby. I can't. She doesn't park at the ER. She parks out in the parking lot. I can't make it to the door.
Wow.
And stuff like that. Like, this is how she was. Her dad was like that, Grandpa. But at that time, that's what happened that year. And so I went to 5th grade, but I shouldn't have went to 5th grade. I'd missed so much time because after that surgery, there was some kind of infection where I had to go back for 6 more weeks.
Oh, wow.
I had a tube sticking out of me with, I can still remember the smell. And every time I smell it, I want to vomit. It's so rare.
You had to stay there for 6 weeks?
I was there like 3 weeks because back in the 1830s, you couldn't get your appendectomy done. You know, now you're done in a day and they send you home and you go to work.
Right.
No, but back then it was a big deal. I still have a horrific scar. But then I had to go back because the infection set in and I had this tube sticking out of me and it was 6 weeks of just blah.
Ugh.
I saw the first space shuttle take off while laying there watching this little black and white TV. It was kind of fun. But I grew up Church of Christ, and my grandparents were very devout, very religious.
Is that Pentecostal or?
No. So Pentecostal.
I'm thinking Church of God in Christ.
Yeah, Pentecostal, they got tambourines and drums, and they run around and speak in tongues, and they go crazy. Church of Christ was, and I try to explain it to my wife years later. I would say, all this music sounds like Dixieland. It's too much. She's like, what are you talking about? It's like, this is too much. And like, what are you talking about? And then we would hear this old rugged cross, like on a hill far away, and I'm like, stop, because how I grew up, no instruments, just a dude up there with a pitch pipe, and everybody, you know, they would sing, and then it was on a hill far away stood, and it was that slow. And then you get to these other churches where there's guitars and drums and they're playing it at 10x speed, and that's not how I remember it when I was a kid.
Did you ever get a chance to go to black church back then?
Years later. And that was different too.
Yeah, that was a shock. Right?
That was a show, man. Me and Terry. So the way I grew up there was a lot of scripture, a lot of 2-hour sermons. So as a little kid, you're just bored drawing dinosaurs and trying not to get beat by your mom. But that steady song all the time, I remember all the old hymns because it was truly like a bluegrass festival every Sunday. Everybody knew their parts. Everybody sang the songs, and they would have their positions. They would say, da, 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 da. And everybody knew where to sing and how, and he's the bass, and he'll come in here, and they just knew all the stanzas they're going to sing. So more than scripture, I remember the songs and the feeling of this tight-knit They all came up from East Tennessee. Like there's Nashville east of that, White County. And a lot of them came up for all the jobs in Indiana because at the time in the 40s, 50s. No, really, back then.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't
I thought you was
not
talking
that
about-
old. But that's where all the jobs were in
Right.
manufacturing. Chrysler's there, Ford, Chevy. Everybody, you would hear about all these transmissions that were made in the area and that kind of thing. So we would, Borg Warner was there. There was all kinds of jobs. And so you'd come up, get a job there in a factory, and it paid enough then you could get a house.
Mhm.
Well, my grandfather was in World War II, and somehow, as a diesel mechanic, he had 3 Bronze Stars, but wouldn't talk about anything. So I think he did something besides diesel mechanic, because a Bronze Star is like, it's not the greatest bravery, like Purple Heart, Silver Star, and all those, but how do you get 3 Bronze Stars as a diesel mechanic? It's a bravery thing, and so that's interesting. But being raised Church of Christ, I had that base of train them up in the way, you know, and they will not depart from it. And all my life, until my grandma passed, she would pray for me. She would talk to me about Jesus. She would talk about the Bible. And that was always a really cool thing to have. My grandfather died when I was 13, and it was very sad. Very sad. He was violent, just like my mom, but left school in 7th grade, so because he had to go work.
Right. They didn't have those child labor laws back then.
Man.
Like kids were working jobs, like 8-hour jobs.
Yeah, I think he was born in 1917, and he was just having to do that. We look at it like, oh, that's so horrible, but that's what
they did.
do you want to live?
Right.
So right after I had all those problems and physical ailments and bones broken and all those things, Dad set us down. I really think it was 82 when I was 10. He's like, hey, you did nothing wrong. We're getting divorced. Huh?
Oh, wow.
And I'd heard him argue. I have vague memories of them arguing. And Dad went out, packed up the car, and left. And of course, what happened? I mean, you were talking about it. Like, and then you go, what do I do wrong? What's wrong? What am I doing? So my sister was 2.5 years younger than myself, and she really didn't understand because she was so young. And I've talked to her since, and she has almost no memories of Dad before. Because what was she, 6.5? No, 7.5. So you'll have some memories, but they're so vague and cursory, it's hard to grasp the memory, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, they that's how that was, and then my mom met a guy, and he moved in. He was in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
And that was weird. And he was a redneck, go figure. But he was basically, leave me alone.
Okay. Man, a few words.
Sometimes you get him on the right subject, but later on when I was older, I'd go months without seeing him. Because I'd go to school, I'd get home, he was still at work. I'd go to work. By the time I got home, he was in bed because he had to leave early. So we just never saw each other. And
2 ships passing.
yeah. And he wasn't horrific. He wasn't great, but that weirdness of a stepdad was there.
Okay.
And then my dad would leave. Years later, you find out why. But as a kid, well, where are you going? Well, I got to move. But as a little kid, you're like, nah, you're supposed to get back with mom.
Right.
And it just never happened, of course. But he would move back to Michigan, so we'd see him rarely. Like Christmas, maybe the next summer for a little bit. Might skip Christmas. I don't remember all the details, but I know it was a while. So that affected me a lot. and all I had was my mom. And I'm finding out only in the last 5 years I'm autistic. And a lot of things make sense when you look back. I would get yelled at. My mom was very abusive. And I would get yelled at and smacked because, quit rolling your eyes at me. I'm not. Like, I really didn't think I was, but I was. But part of being autistic is you can't control your facial expressions. Quit giving me that look. Mom didn't take a moment to pay attention because she was a pill popper. So she'd just go off and just lay out and, you're just like your dad, and start screaming, and that abuse. Great times. And a lot of times I would take that, whereas my sister wouldn't get it. I was older. I reminded her of my dad. So a lot of her anger and fury was like that. Like I said, my grandpa died at 13. So my grandma moved in with us for a little while. Then she found her own place, and we'd visit her often. And grandma was a big part of our family. Every Easter, 4th of July, Memorial Day, we'd go get grandma because she never drove. Not once. No, she said she did once, and she wrecked the car and said, well, that's why I don't drive, and then never drove again.
Wow.
And typical for that age. But we would always have her around for all the holidays, all the things. We'd always have a cookout. And it was just a weird upbringing in nowhere, Indiana, where at 12, I was working. So in June, I literally will have 40 years of employment that I can go to the Social Security and show them, hey, 40 years, which is weird. I thought I should retire at 40 years, but oh well.
So 12, it's 1984. 84.
Well, actually, it's 85. I was almost 13, but I lied and said my birthday was a month earlier so I could
get the job.
Detasseling corn.
Indiana.
Yeah. But I would also get hired out to bale hay. Some friends, you would go stay at their house and you'd have to do chores before they could play.
Okay.
So you got to go feed the calves. You got to help, shovel crap. You got to do all this stuff when you spend the night at their house. But the good news was we're done at 7 a.m. We can go play. Whereas if I wasn't there to help, he'd be doing that till noon.
Right.
And that's living on a farm. It's just what it is. But so many times when I was growing up, it was just hard work. It was a lot of labor. It was a lot of, we're going to go dig this. You're going to clean that. You're going to fix this. I need you to, I was this hired hand. And it all makes sense later. But Mom tried to control my weight.
Okay.
No sugar.
Yeah.
None. Like, open the cabinet. There's chicken noodle soup in a can. There's Cheerios. Right. Other boxed goods of pasta and things, and, canned salmon or whatever else is going to be in there, right? But no sugar. And so when I would find sugar, I would devour it. To this day, I struggle.
Yeah, I've witnessed.
And I can eat as many donuts as you put in front of me.
I've witnessed.
And the record is 39, only because they ran out.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. When I was a senior in high school.
Now, for the listeners, Brian is not that big, y'all. So that is amazing. You know what I mean? That's a lot. He's not that big.
I got up to 315 at my biggest.
Okay.
I'm about 252 right now.
But you 6 what?
I was 6'1", but with my back compressing, I think I'm 6 foot. It's slowly shrinking. So when I'm thinking about it, like a lot of abuse, a lot of that, dad in and out of my life. He'd just show up at a Little League game. I'm like, hey, hot dog. And then I wouldn't see him for a few weeks or a month. I don't recall the exact details. But you had that idolization of your father because he wasn't there. And so you'd tell stories with kids. Well, my dad's 7'4".
Right,
Know,
right.
my dad can do anything because he wasn't there. And so I didn't have to prove it. But living there in those small towns in Indiana, we moved a lot. And it was wild. Just the kids always picked on me. And that's one of the main things that grew me into who I am, is because I was autistic, because I was overweight. Like, I would find sugar somehow. I was always overeating. I was always gathering as much sugar and junk as I could. And because I was autistic and weird, and that wasn't such a big thing back in the 70s and early 80s, kids were horrific.
Oh, yeah.
They'd pick on me. And I'd get in fights. And it made me very angry. And then the divorce thing never really healed. Losing my grandfather never healed. Just a lot of anger. And then at 13, I found this wonder drug called alcohol. I said, hello, friend. So 7th and 8th grade, I wanted to play football so bad. And I remember my mom saying, when we moved to this other town, moving again, well, they have a football team here like you want. Because the other one was so small. Like, one year, 16 kids graduated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, small.
They didn't have nobody to play, huh?
No. We got a basketball team. We can't. Yeah, so that was real. But I was unable to play 7th and 8th grade football because of who I was. I was a big kid. I was 220 in 7th grade. I started at 190 and I ended at 220. It wasn't like I was fat, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of muscle because I was always working.
Right.
I was at that age baling hay. I was out there working on farms. Mom would hire me out. This is how it was. And at the house, Mom would have me dig trenches, plant trees. I planted so many trees in that yard. There's still some there. I saw them back in 22. We just getting picked on all the time. Horrifically picked on. Even the Pentecostal girl in the skirt picked on me one time. It was so funny looking back on it. Thought, how messed up is that? 7th grade, things really started to change. Kids were picking on me, just nasty. And a kid named Brian, I won't say his whole name because he died. A lot of people died from my school because it's just how it goes. Kid named Scott picked on me. Another kid named Scott picked on me. And we just get in fights. And even though I would lash out and do things, and this one kid kept flipping me in the ear and wouldn't quit, like I told you before. I picked him up, smashed his face in the wall to where his teeth came out. And they kept picking on me. Like, what else do I have to do?
Right.
And it's such a hard thing to get over. So I would get drunk and I would drink. And after a while, when I got into high school, I found a job where that was not only accepted, it was like the entry fee. Yeah, it was an entry fee. I got hired at 16 at this place, retail environment. The guy said, we party on Fridays and we party on Saturdays. If you can't afford it, give me some cash. Somebody will buy it for you. And whatever you want, we'll get. Like, well, I'm in the right place. So I got even more drunk, even more high, even more crazy. And I did a lot of drugs. The whole time since 4th grade, when I moved to that new school with the football, was my friend Sean.
Wow.
And in 4th grade, we met, and it didn't take too long. We became good friends. And then in 7th grade, we really became best friends. And because I was isolated, I was ostracized, I was not belonging to anything. Sean was my only friend. Had another guy that was friends sometimes when it was convenient, but other people saw, well, I'm not going to be your friend now. People are looking, that kind of thing. So Sean and I really built a bond. My brother, my best friend, my true brother. And he almost killed me. I almost killed him. I'm not exaggerating, 40, 50 times each. But we saved each other's lives just as much. But I didn't have any church. I didn't have anything to give it foundation. All I had was up until, 8 or 9 or 10, and then no church, other than my grandma when I would go over, talk about Jesus, give me some words of encouragement, hand me a Bible. Why don't you highlight the parts that I remember highlighting things just because I thought it was cool. But I don't recall any church that I can think of ever, not even Christmas.
So you were just kind of dealing with things, trying to make sense of it, trying to enjoy yourself, trying to figure out your place,
I had no hope.
Right.
I had no future. I had no anything. Mom would hit me with bricks, bats, shovels, boots, what was near. Right. That's what she'd hit me with. At 13, I'm on second base. And I didn't finish all my chores. And I came down the hill to play Little League. So I'm on second base playing Little League. And you hear this car roaring down the hill. I said, oh no. The brakes hit, dust cloud goes, door opens, door slams. Oh no. There's like 40 people there watching the game. Mom walks out on the field, calls time.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, at least you did that.
Yeah, had some respect. Grabs me violently, pulls me off second, throws me in the car, literally. We go up the hill. Sean's dad was the coach.
Oh, wow.
And he came up the hill right behind us. So Sean's dad, Bob, I love Bob. Bob came in, started opening the screen door because up there's no AC. He opened the screen door, started to come in, and she's whooping me with a belt, just tearing into me. And Bob comes in, he says, you can't do it. She said, Bob, leave or you're next. He said, sorry, kid. He took off. But I say all that for a reason. The year later at 14, I grabbed the belt from my mom. I said, no more. I was so big, I could do it. And so she used guilt. She used coercion. She used shame. She used
verbal
you're
abuse.
Just like your dad all the time. Yeah, a lot of verbal abuse. She'd try to be physical, but I'd just grab her hands and make her stop. She'd get high on those pills. I mean, and she smoked so much. Her and my stepdad smoked so much. Walls were yellow. You take a picture down that's white behind it.
Right.
You've seen it. But I would escape when I could to go over and be at Sean's house. It was 5 miles away. Sometimes I'd ride my bike in the next little town. And when I was there, even though his situation was messed up, I mean, really messed up, his parents were together. And Bob was like the father I didn't have full time. Love my dad. He's doing what he can from afar. And sometimes he was visiting a lot more, living closer. We got to see him every other weekend. Other times, he just had to go. I mean, I can't afford to live here. I got to move again. Okay. And it'd be farther away. One time it was across the state, like 200-300 miles. So you wouldn't see him but once a month. But Bob was like that surrogate father I always needed. And he wasn't an amazing role model, but Bob was a great man. And growing up, that's what I needed, was more men in my life, and I didn't have it. So all through high school, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, somehow graduated. I tell people I was 56th in my class, and they're like, wow, yeah, out of like 62, yeah. But I graduated.
So you weren't partying with the cool kids, or just
I
you
did
and Sean
go.
kinda?
I did go to a senior party that no one told me about, but I heard about. And Sean and I crashed it. And we went everywhere together. You got to understand, if we weren't working, we were together.
Right.
And we did. We went and crashed the party and got in more fights and screamed and yelled and caused chaos and got kicked out. But like in my senior year, there was a stuff called ephedra. And it's this bad drug that's no longer, quote, legal.
Mm.
They were in these little caffeine pills.
Okay.
And so they used to be 2 in a pack, little mini thins, White Crosses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd crush them up, like 12, 14 of them, crush them up and snort them.
Mm.
And your heart's going 200 and some beats a minute. And you're just ready to go.
Mm.
Like that ephedra was real, dude.
Mm.
You want to talk about speed.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Wow.
But then at night, got to drink to slow down.
Mm.
But I drink a half pint. I drink a half pint of a certain liquor, not to give any props to any liquors.
Mm.
It was 109 proof, and I'd leave to go to the party, but I'd pre-drink.
Right.
I was just bad. But everybody fed into it because of where I worked.
Mm.
I'd sleep around a lot with the girls at work. I did a lot of dumb things. I tell people all the time, I did everything you did, I just never got caught.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got chased.
Mm-hmm.
I just never got caught.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sean and I go to college together because we were in the same class, and we went over to this little community college, and it didn't work out because we didn't go. Like you were saying in yours, you didn't keep going.
Right, right.
So we would just run around and be stupid, and especially our senior year and a couple of years after, we would go to Sears parking lot in this little town just looking for a fight.
Mm.
That's how violent we both were.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go find a fight. We'd go to Sears parking lot, and there's people there, and you got a beef with almost everybody.
Mm.
Get out of the car, redneck town,
Mm-hmm.
just sit there and fight.
Mm.
Violent. I mean, I got 13 fractures in my right hand for a reason.
Mm.
You know, a lot of violence, a lot of drugs. And then it just got worse in our 20s. But we always looked out for each other. And that's one thing his dad said. Bob said, I always knew when you guys went out, one of you would stay sober and look out for the other one.
Or less drunk.
No, we'd stay sober.
Oh, somebody stay sober.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I don't know why, but we always did.
Mm.
Like, all right, man, it's your turn. We go out and act stupid and go places and big house parties and go fight, whatever.
Mm.
But then we'd always make sure the other one was okay.
Mm.
We'd race cars. We do all the dumb stuff.
Mm.
Like, imagine some redneck kid in Indiana in the 80s, and that was us.
Mm.
You know, sex, guns, and violence, and women, and drugs, and alcohol.
Mm.
Everything that you get when you don't have God.
Yeah.
So then in the 90s, Mom kicked me out. I think I just turned 19 or... Yeah. You don't live here anyways. Get out. Okay.
Mm.
So I packed up everything and left. A couple of days later, I went to my dad's, and he said I could move in like years ago. And I said, hey, I'm taking you up on it.
Mm.
And I kind of detoxed for a few weeks, and I told him, just let me be. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone.
Mm.
But then when I moved in with my dad, I started joining the softball leagues because I wanted to play softball.
Mm.
But to play on the softball leagues, you had to go to the church.
Oh, okay.
So I would go to church. And even though I was autistic, even though I did poor at school, even though no one was my friend other than Sean, I'm not a genius, but I'm pretty smart.
Mm.
And concepts come real easy. I'm not a high-end math equation guy, but I can really articulate thought. And when I was going through college, I understood it all. I just didn't want to go.
Mm.
But the Bible was giving me something like it was with you. I was starting to really get an academic calling to it.
Mm.
So it was more like, wow, I find this interesting academically, like, because they would find something on the news and say, hey, we found this and it proves the Bible. I thought, well, that's weird. I still hadn't given my life to Christ. I just was going to church to play softball and living with my dad. I only lived there 7-8 months.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me. And basically moved out, found an apartment once I got some money together. Because back then you could. Rent was $300 for a little apartment. Yeah, back when
those days.
Back when you can live somewhere. It was a guy's basement. But I worked at a couple of places and had some serious girlfriends. And then this one girlfriend really broke my heart. Way to go. I was 21. And I said, well, let me go rediscover alcohol and drugs. So I went back. There were years I don't recall. I mean, I can remember highlights and lowlights, but it's a blur. I went to a campus party at another area, and I don't recall much except for by the end of the night I was drinking Everclear straight, which is just pure alcohol.
Yeah.
That's how bad it got. Probably should have went to the hospital. But a lot of drugs, a lot of violence, more arguments, more stupid women problems. Then when I was my late 20s, I started to get to where I was having enough of it. I can only drink a half gallon of Jim Beam so many times. Yeah. And that's where I was. I was drinking, had the little loop on the top. I know I said wouldn't say, oh well. I drank a half gallon of whiskey. And that was a night. Cases of beer. It was so stupid. The drugs, dropping acid, doing all kinds of crazy things. But it was all empty. It was a hole.
Right.
But I wasn't living any kind of life. It was just this empty existence. I somehow flunked out of that community college with Sean, but then I went to another community college. And Sean and I are still best friends through the whole thing. We still hang out all the time. Well, he moves up and we move in together. Oh. And more partying, more problems, more everything. But in my late 20s, I'm skipping a ton. Like there's volumes to be written. But in my late 20s, I really started to get tired of it. I'm thinking long term, like I've accomplished nothing. Not just nothing. I mean, nothing. Just if I died right now, 50, 60 people would say, what an alcoholic. And I'd be forgotten in a year. And I'd gotten back with my mom, like probably 2 years later after kicking me out. We talked, but we didn't make up. So we tolerated each other. I'd see her at Christmas. I'd see her then. But then late 90s, I was really getting done. Still no Jesus, still no God. And then I'm at a party because I'm going to Ball State somehow in Muncie, Indiana.
Muncie.
Somehow I'm going to college. And I meet this girl. And I was in a comedy troupe, and I was doing comedy. And it was a lot of fun.
You left that out.
There's a lot of stuff I'm leaving out.
Well, how did you get into comedy? Like, when did you notice that you had, wit?
Well, because I was good or smart, and because the number one defense, besides alcohol and drug treatments on your own, the number one real defense against all of the abuse and just hardcore ridicule from kids, and was humor.
Humor. You used it as a tool.
Oh,
as
man,
a
I used it as a weapon, a shield, a weapon, a claymore, whatever it took. I used this as what it took to get by when I wasn't avoiding the world with drugs and alcohol. So my humor got me through. And then when I went to college and I really started, I was living with all these guys because I'd met them through other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I really started to realize, man, I'm smarter than I think.
Mm.
And they would talk about Kurosawa, and they would talk about Salvador Dali. Then they would talk about ancient philosophies and the Socratic method. Then we would talk about high-end physics, all in this house. And the whole time we're drinking beer and just laughing, but having these real conversations. Right. And it really stimulated me for the first time. So at about, what was that? At 24, I really started to realize I'm not stupid. It took me until 24 to know Mom was wrong. I'm not stupid, because I was told I was stupid all my life. And I'm not stupid. And then I tried really hard to improve. Life kept getting in the way. Had a girlfriend, got real crazy on that. Had to drop out of school for that. And then Mom got sick. And Mom got cancer because she smoked like a train. Just the way it is. And went into remission. Went back to cancer. And then 99 at campus, I was at a party with one of the girls who was in the comedy troupe. She said, "Hey, meet a friend of mine." And then there was the wife.
Oh, wow. That was Teresa.
So I met her. And I said, "Oh, hey." And we talked all night. We talked and talked. And then, next thing you know, it's morning. Like, hey, let's go over to this. It's not Denny's, but it's Denny's inspired place. It's gone now. Went and got breakfast. She had to fly out that day. So I said, okay, the wife, well, let's keep in touch. Because we had amazing conversations and went on 8-9 hours. And it's rare that a woman would talk to me that length with that much intelligence, with a lot of the same, loved Star Trek, loved Star Wars, loved 80s music, loved this. And so we really got to hit it off. And then we stayed in touch, emailed. Because I left college because of the girlfriend before and all the issues with her, had to do something. So I was working and doing comedy on the side. So I would go travel different college campuses. We would do a comedy troupe with some of the people from the previous one. We'd go to Ohio University, Purdue, IU, Ball State, of course. Crackers Comedy Club in Indianapolis. They're on Massachusetts at the time. Improv, something or other. I don't remember. A lot of it. And it was so much fun. Just freeing. Because when you're autistic, your brain's in 12 places. Like, it's hard for me to continue this conversation in a linear path. Because I think ahead and behind 50 times per word. It's hard to articulate to people how fast your brain works. It's just so impossible for you to understand if you're not this way.
Just overstimulated?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. Look at if you guys could see, I draw these complex mazes. And I rarely finish them. But I draw these giant poster board size complex mazes.
They're pretty good too.
But or the weird art. It calms me down. I focus like a laser on that one thing. I don't think about all these other things. Back on track. So we stay in touch. And next thing you know, the wife comes up to visit. I go down to visit. She's in Texas. Because her dad moved down in the late 90s a couple of years before we met, she comes up to visit, meets my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Christmas, she came up to visit. Bought me a George Foreman grill. Mom's laughing as I open it because Mom got me one too.
So
She bought me the small one. I got the big one from Mom, and we still have that one. 26 years later almost.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And I just pray that thing works until like I'm gone. But my mom loved her. My mom absolutely loved her and said she's a winner.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Christmas of '99, I got my wife just a necklace and a ring, her birthstones, just being nice.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife likes to say the story. My mom saw her open it. Oh, what's that? Oh, and then she opens it up, and it's just the birthstone with the necklace. She goes, "Oh, that's nice." Like she was wanting the engagement ring.
Right.
It was like, "Oh, yeah, mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, that's nice." Uh-huh.
Right.
But with the wife, I started to go to church
Oh, okay.
when I moved down here.
Okay.
So in 2000, Mom passed away.
Oh,
And once all those affairs were cleaned up, cancer got her finally. I moved down and got an apartment. I stayed around here, the Dallas area,
okay.
and been here ever since. And so we would go to church. And she would say, if you want to be with me, we go to church. You have to live near me. I'm not moving there.
Mm.
And so I moved down. I'm here. And as we went to church, I was pretty serious about it. But then, and here's where the real testimony begins. In 2001, we got married down here. In 2002, in June, my wife's pregnant.
Mm.
And I felt convicted big time to move back to Indiana.
Why so?
I don't know why. I said, we got to move to Indiana.
Mm.
We were living in a mobile home.
Mm.
We couldn't get rid of it because you can't really just get rid of a mobile home. And I said, we just got to move. And I don't know why, but she said, okay.
Mm. Mm.
So we moved 1,000 miles back to Indiana. And my son was born.
Mm-hmm.
But when we moved back, we found a new church that was just starting. And then I knew why. I was there for that church when it started.
Mm.
And Sam, I've talked about Sam now and again. Sam and I, like the amazing man that Sam is. And we really worked well together. It was truly Acts 2, 47, 45, you know, where they shared everything together. It really was like that. The whole church got together all the time. What do you need? How can we help? You got to move? Oh, they would pull together like $1,000 to help you move. And then they would have 20 guys show up to move things for you. It was that kind of environment. Amazing. Love. We played board games and as a big church, like all the guys would get together, all the girls would get together, it was an amazing environment. And then I really knew God was pulling on my heart. It was February of 2003. My son's born. I got this dog. And this dog she got him from the shelter because he was a runaway. Mm. And we should have known better. And sure enough, on our wedding day, he ran away.
Oh,
and
wow.
she's out there in her wedding dress chasing him.
Oh, wow.
So he's a stinker, man.
Mm.
He was Buster. He was Pekingese Pomeranian mix.
Oh, okay.
Well, I get up there. I'm working far away. It's like an hour and a half there, hour and a half back.
Ooh.
Yeah. But, sorry, it's a job. And I get home, and it's snowing in Indiana. It's February. Makes sense. She's crying at the door. Buster got out. I said, oh, man. And I parked around the side where the garage is because that old Honda, 300,000 miles, if you didn't park it in the garage, it wouldn't start the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, where'd he go? She said, towards the highway. We're in this little town. So I took off running. There's kids building a snow fort. I said, hey, did you see a little white dog? Yeah, he's got like yellowish hair. Yeah, he ran up to the highway. I start going. And I said, no. Some lady stopped and picked him up, put him in the car.
Oh, wow.
I said, what?
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, no. Which way did she go? All 3 or 4 of them said into town, like the big town, up the way. I said, okay. So my immediate thought was radio stations there get drowned out because there's one big radio station in town. And if you want to listen to anything on the radio at that time, you basically listen to that one big radio station because it just drowned out everybody. It's like 100,000 watts and everybody else was trying to get there from Indianapolis. Sorry. So I go home. I call the radio station. Dude, just get on there. I know she's in the car. Probably listen to your radio station. Hey, if you picked up a dog, call the station. He's like, I can't. I was like, dude. He said, I can't. And I called him a lot of words, but I hung up. So I started calling all the local, there's like 5 animal rescue places and everything. And I'm like, we lost our dog.
Oh, man.
We just lost our dog. Because he was a cute dog.
Mm.
He was an amazing little dog. He did tricks. He didn't have a nose, but you could put a little bone on it, and he would just sit there waiting for you to say go, and he'd eat it.
Oh, wow.
He was an amazing, cute dog. I was upset. She was crying. And
on your wedding day?
No. This is after my son was born.
Oh.
Yeah, he was 5 months old. But she couldn't really go because he's 5 months old, and it's snowing, and so she's at home crying. So I'm out on the front porch. I walk up to the little road where our mailbox is, and I'm standing there. And I'm really contemplating, like, what am I going to do? My dog's gone. And my wife has no family up there. None. And she's crying. And it's worse because she's really tight with her family. And I just said, look, God, if you're real, bring my dog to me.
Oh, wow.
And I said, right here, bring my dog to me. Standing next to the mailbox at the end of the sidewalk in front of my house. If you're real, do that. I'll get baptized. I just shook my head. Just stood there another minute, trying not to go in and listen to her cry. But eventually I had to because it's cold. 2 or 3 days later, I get a call. One of those animal rescue places. Hey, we think you found your dog. How amazing. His name's Buster. Yeah? Yeah? And he has this on his tail and all that. Like, yeah, we think it's your dog. I said, okay. I'll come get him. Well, we're getting ready to close. Like, well, I really want my dog. Well, don't you live here in that little town? I said, yeah. Well, I live there. You live there. Yeah, I live on such and such street, which is like 1 away from us. She said, I'll just bring your dog to you.
Right.
I said, okay, lady. That's awesome. So, half hour later, horn honks. And the car is parked at the end of the sidewalk, right where the mailbox is. I walk up, and where I told God to bring me my dog, she hands me my dog.
Wow. You never told me this.
Nope.
Wow.
And I'm like in tears.
Yeah.
And she says, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I don't know how much cash I had on me. I just threw it in her car. Just take my money. That's not needed, ma'am. Just take my money. Thanked her 50 times. Went inside. Gave the dog to my wife. Grabbed the phone. Called Sam. Hey, Sam, I got to get baptized. Really? I'll tell you about it later. And sure enough, I got baptized that night. We just went over and got we were renting a old church that had closed down, and the baptistry had no heat, and it was so cold in February, and he and I could sing higher notes that night. But that's when I found Christ to be real. And that was how. And ever since, he's proved himself over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And as I get older, I just keep going to church. I just keep professing God. I just keep doing what I can in this life. Starting the podcast or volunteering a lot of places, or for a while with Brad, giving away appliances. Hey, this lady has 4 kids and needs a dryer. Not a problem. I'd find a dryer. To this day, I can go find dryers and washers real easy.
He found me a lawnmower. It didn't work at all, but he found me a lawnmower.
Doggone it. I was so mad about that because they swore up and down it worked.
That's all right.
Well, don't trust people, trust God.
That's right.
But the cool part is all that abuse, all that pain, everything I went through. Now when I talk to people, they're like, well, you don't understand because I got this and this and this. Oh, wait, I do. Or you know what it's like to have. No. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I can reach so many people because I'm able to say, not only do I get it, we can go tit for tat on this, and I can tell you my story, you tell me yours, and you'll say, oh, crap, you really do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to go to a party Friday, wake up Sunday 2 counties south, and not know what you did since Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
I know that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good feeling.
Right.
To have your car stolen, to have a gun held to your head, to be threatened, to be shot at, to run from the cops, literally, and driving, and all kinds of issues. And how many people have I reached because of that? Now it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell them all, I've done everything you have. I just never got caught. But we are only good fruit because of the root of the tree,
Mm-hmm.
right? The root of this grapevine is Christ. I am the vine.
Mm-hmm.
John 15.
Mm-hmm.
I am just a stupid branch.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been cut off and thrown in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, Jesus saw my future and said, no, I got something for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas how many thousands and thousands and millions of other just white trash kids from nowhere, wherever they are in America, just lived a life of idiocy and drugs and violence and sex and guns, and next thing you know, they're dead. You're just a statistic. And God had a plan. Is it predestination? I don't know. I'm not that smart. But what I do know is I don't take it for granted. And I try really, really hard to, when I tell people about Christ, how you are a new creation. You are changed. This new fruit in our lives, we are not who we were. People at work now, every now and then I'll talk to someone one-on-one and kind of give them a very, very, very condensed version. They look at me like, you were violent? Yeah. Come on, dude. You're the most joyful, happy guy. You're screaming, woo, having fun.
Like,
You were, really? Like, yeah, look at my hand. And I'll show them all the fractures and how my hand looks like a boxer's glove. And they're like, oh, yeah, man, that was me. But God, rich in mercy, you're saved by grace,
right.
not by works. But it's by those things you do, that fruit that you show. That's why David and I call it be good fruit, is now we're able to show the world in our daily lives, in our daily walk, what we do matters for Christ. Is he really the captain of our life ship? Are we really listening to his commands? Because if Christ is, then everything you do and say is a reflection of him.
Right.
That old song, Lord, let me shine like the moon, a reflection of you in all that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my goal. There's a lot more to the story, but
yeah, I got a
that's
question.
the condense. What you got?
Sean.
Yeah, in 2020, he went ahead and ended his life, and that got sad. I tried. Did I do all I could? Maybe not. Someone else, I've actually literally had demons tell me, manifesting themselves in someone else, you didn't do all you could for him. You left him. These demons are telling me this. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to go through.
I'm sorry, man.
And to have those demons tell me that was hard.
I'm sorry, brother.
No, that's how it goes. It's real life. And that guy, he pulled through, and he has Christ now.
That's good.
But to have that in your face, and he couldn't have known all those things. They said things that they knew. That the enemy knows.
Yeah.
He couldn't have known that. And so that was amazing. I've seen some demons. But where do we go from here? We keep the podcast going. We keep reaching out, as silly as we are. Sometimes Chris, sometimes David, sometimes Brian.
Right.
We don't know where it'll go. But my goal is, if this went away, Brian, you got 3 weeks left. All right. Good. Because that's 3 weeks to preach the gospel. In a way, that'd be freeing, just to not have to work and go. It's like, just go preach, go talk to people, go help, go live. And then also in a way, we can do that every day. On the way home, when you're getting gas, talk to people, say, hey, open the door, have conversations, be good fruit.
Yeah.
And it's not just a slogan. It's faith in action. How are we doing that for others? Well, shoot, we went over an hour.
Yeah, you tried to condense 105 years in like an hour.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm that old. Yeah.
I was talking to a friend. I'm sorry, a friend of my church, and he plays the keys at church. And I was like, "How long you been playing?" He said, "Well, I kind of started kind of late in life, like 19, 20." I was like, "Man, you look really good to be playing for 105 years, right?"
Doggone it, man.
We just cracked up laughing. No.
Man, you don't have a lot of wrinkles for that old.
But yeah, man. Yeah, it's hard to try to tell your life story in that amount of time, because
I need a good 5 hours.
Yeah.
And we need to put a lot of the beeps in there, and there needs to be a major warning label. It's a rough life, but it's a redeemed life because of Christ.
Yeah.
And coming through it means so much more when you've been there.
Right.
When you didn't eat for 3 days. When you didn't have heat, you just had kerosene heaters, and you had to wake up at midnight and 3 a.m. and fill them. When your house burns down and all you're wearing is your cousin's clothes, that's one size too small, and you wear that for a week at school and get ridiculed because you're so fat and your cousin's clothes are too small. Lifetime of pain. And you rarely see it from me.
No. Well.
But it's because I'm a new creation in Christ.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Well, thanks for putting up with us if you lasted this long. And if you did, you really do get a gold star.
Yeah.
Like, Brian's such a whiner. His mom's right, Nancy.
Oh, no.
But definitely, we do appreciate you listening. And we have goals and hopes and dreams to expand, but it's all up to you guys that listen. Yeah. Leave comments. On Substack, we have a little poll. Take the polls. Tell friends. Coerce neighbors. Whatever it takes to get us out there.
By any means.
I don't know about that.
Just drive down the street with it blasting and have the car.
Be good fruit. Hey guys, thanks so much. Until next time, I'm Brian.
I'm David.
See you later.
Peace.